I think the very best in history just might be Paul Harvey. I think Paul Harvey was an amazing broadcaster. And he did a lecture that he kept updating throughout the years. It was called If I Were the Devil. And the theme of it was that if Paul Harvey was the devil, how would he corrupt American civilization? And it was, he would keep doing what he was doing because American civilization was corrupting itself. So I decided on Good Friday this year to do an updated version, to do a little homage to that great lecture, If I Were the Devil.
If I were the devil, if I were the Prince of Darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I would know in the darkest recesses of my blackened heart that I have succeeded. I've subverted the churches first with a campaign of whispers, then with an outright assault, using the crimes of the few to impugn the many until I had convinced the masses that religion was corrupt, that its teachings were outdated, that its message was one of hatred. With the wisdom of a serpent, I whispered to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please, and feel safe knowing that the doctrine of moral relativism has replaced any notion of absolute right and absolute wrong. The bearing of false witness is now good politics. Covetousness is encouraged every commercial break. Adultery is a way of life, and even murder is a woman's choice. To the young, I whispered that the Bible is a myth, and then shouted through 1,000 movies and 1,000,000 television shows that science has killed religion, that man is destroying the planet, and that the only salvation is subservience to government's will. What's bad is good, abstinence isn't possible, sex at 12 is acceptable, and generations of children having children without a thought as to how to raise them is the goal, because now they belong to me. And I have taught you all to pray, Our Father, which art in Washington, subsistence be thy name. Give us this day our daily bread, and rent, and utilities, and health care, and cell phones, and deliver us now into dependence, so that those leading us into the temptation of complacency might stay in power. And to challenge that power is racist. To defy that authority is intolerance. To refuse to bend to its will is bigotry. Accusations that I weaponized so readily that I stripped you of your ability to recognize real racism or intolerance or bigotry. And I've gotten organized. Authors now write bondage pornography in 50 shades. Movies without enough gore are ignored, and Grand Theft Auto isn't a crime but a game. I presented a call of duty to kill, to maim, to live vicariously through the depths of depravity. And even when they tried to tell the story of the Bible, I filtered it through my lens, tinting it with the vestige of political correctness so that even the tale of Noah made no mention of God. I peddled narcotics to the streets, then hooked the rich on the pills that led them to the streets for the same high. Addiction is pain relief, and alcoholism is a culture. Families were at war with themselves until I destroyed the family and replaced it with the gentle hand of government. And I had that government mesmerize an adoring media with empty promises of hope and change. I encouraged the schools not to refine young intellects, but to massage young egos, to replace learning with cultural enrichment, to ensure that knowledge is replaced by a common core of ideological nonsense that equips young minds for nothing but dependence upon me. I evicted God from the schoolhouse, from the courthouse, from the halls of Congress, and I called anyone who dared to speak his name a zealot, but praised and elevated those who worship at the altar of self-satisfaction. I replaced the meaning of Christmas with stampedes of greed on Black Friday and replaced Easter with spring in every mention, from vacation to break to bunny, so that its message was all but forgotten. I took from those who have, gave to those who could help me most politically, and called it stimulus for all. I would set liberation from work as the end, government handouts as the means, and I drove millions from the workforce into my embrace. Freedom now means free lunch, free love, and free benefits subsidized by the working whom I vilified as predatory capitalists. Patriotism is embarrassing. The American flag can be a symbol of hate. Marriage is whatever I say it is, and if you speak up or speak out, I will monitor you, scrutinize you, target you, and demonize you. In other words, if I were the devil, I would feel pretty good about all the bad I have done.
Looking back at 2014 on New Year's Eve, Dan O'Donnell sitting in for Belling, News Talk 1130 WISN.